I don't know. What are you supposed
in
to
the
do?
living room anymore.
Well, you made a mess.
That,
Yes, she did.
the air conditioner blew the potato chips right on the floor.
Oh,
Air conditioner, is that what did it?
Mm-hmm.
Every time I walk into the air conditioner, my hair blows. And Gary says, what hair?
It's these thin plates.
All right, so tell me something about yourself. When were you born? What is your first remembering? My first remembering is over on Kelvin. What's your first remembering?
you don't remember living in Maywood?
Well, he was only
I remember
4
living
months
on
when we moved
Kelvin.
out.
I remember.
About 4 months when we moved out.
Oh, he was 4 months.
I remember John being born, more or less.
You know, I think about it, Co. He had that, we bought him a nice little trike, and he outgrew it. And
Is that on?
And she gave it,
I guess.
she gave it to some neighbor boy down the street, and you got a new one, but you didn't want to give her rid of the old one. You wanted that one. You went screaming after that kid. You don't remember that, huh?
In Maywood?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had your trike and you wanted it.
But, you know, you say he was only 4 months old. You don't. I thought he was more than 4 months old.
When did we move to Kelburn? What year? How long before John was born?
You know, that I don't know. I don't know what year that was. And we lived. Let's see. The war started in 41, didn't it? December.
December 41. I was 1 year and 2 months old.
That's when my dad died in, the war was in December and he died November 28th.
Just before the war started.
Yeah, and you were, a year old in October. You're the only grandchild he ever saw.
Yeah, I don't want to hear the stories about my diapers, please.
But he wanted to call you. You had a German name, you know. He go with start with Erich, and he gave you a whole bunch of
Erich von.
something. But you never seen him very much, did you?
Hmm?
You never seen him very much.
We lived with him.
Yeah, but he was gone all the time. I don't remember.
Well, he was gone when he died.
Yeah, that's right.
Wasn't he up in Trona or someplace?
Yeah, but you were a year old, see, so.
So you did leave Maywood when I was 4 months old?
No. Well, we did because when he was born, we were in Maywood, and I went to work with.
But you was still back in a different house there in Maywood. You know,
Yeah.
while he was older than that.
You mean you moved out of Maywood, then you moved into Graham's house,
Mm-hmm.
and then you went back to
We
Maywood?
went back to Maywood.
Oh. Why Maywood?
Because it's close to Mueller.
Yeah, was it
There were nice people over
It,
there.
it was only a couple of miles away.
They were nice working people, a nice, comfortable place. I think it was a good place to live, don't you?
At the time, I don't know what it's like now.
It's ghetto, mostly Latinos.
You remember when John was born, your brother John?
You guys are going too contemporary. I mean, I know what happened in 1945. I want to know what happened in 1916 and 1922.
Well, I was born January the 29th, 1922 in Pasadena, California. My father was building a house in San Gabriel for us. And the house on the south side, he put the boards upside down where the rain would have rained in, so he had to put a double, it wasn't going to take it down.
He was going to break it all, take all that off and start over again. He put another layer right up on top.
And then he built the garage, and the garage
Is that the house on Pine?
Mm-hmm. And then he had to add on to the house when I was about 3 years old. No, less than that. I was less than that, and we lived in the garage, and we thought that was so fun. We had a wood stove in there, and Mother cooked over it. We could go in the house to go to the bathroom and things. But anyway, we were
I thought you had an outhouse.
Well, we did. And when I was 3 on my 3rd birthday, they burned the mortgage, for the house that he built, and also burnt the outhouse.
Because you put in indoor plumbing.
And we had so much
And
fun.
that was your third birthday celebration.
I guess so.
And you still had flour sack underpants.
My mother saved money by making our underpants out of flour sacks, and all my cousins, when they had a birthday, she would buy them silk panties or rayon panties, and I always thought, oh, if I could have a pair of silk panties.
My mother used to make all her shorts and all her shirts. I never had a bought shirt or short until after.
Out of flour sacks?
Until when?
I don't know when she got married. She got the material.
But she made your underwear and your shirts.
She never wore a collar. I've never seen a collar like this on me until after I was out of home. After we was married. Mine was always a big, more like a sailor wears. Their collar, the big broad collar. All of her shirts were that way.
She made your high school clothes too?
I don't remember ever.
I seen you pictures in high school.
I don't.
You had regular
I don't remember
clothes.
buying any regular shirts.
Well, you'd have them because I saw pictures.
I never had a haircut till I was about 17.
You mean a paid haircut?
I paid haircut.
You mean somebody put a bowl over your head and cut it with a scissors?
Practically, yeah. And boy, if we didn't sit perfectly still,
What happened?
they'd complain, well, he'd whack it.
Who was he?
My dad.
Oh, he did the haircut.
We had to go to school with that, and the kids made fun of the way our haircut.
So the safe way was to be perfectly still.
Yeah, he was a long ways from being a barber, I'll tell you.
Mother cut all our hair, and we had Dutch boy bangs or Dutch girl bangs and Dutch haircuts. But when I was little, my hair was real fluffy and thick, so it looked all right like that. But as I grew older, I wanted another style. And finally, we got to get permanents.
So how many,
I had an older sister, Mary, and my mother had a daughter before Mary was born. Her name was, my dad wanted to name her after his mother and grandmother, so they named her Fanny. My mother wasn't fond of the name, so they gave her a middle name of Evelyn. And then they called her Evelyn all the time, but when they went back to visit my father's family,
they had to call her Fanny.
they'd call her Fanny again. And she died just before she was 5.
Before you were born?
Yes, I would say a few months before I was born, or a year before I was born.
What did she die of?
Diphtheria and pneumonia.
So those are serious things, and nobody else caught the
Does
diphtheria?
anybody get diphtheria anymore?
I don't think so here, maybe in tropical countries.
They didn't have medicine for pneumonia like they do now. And I guess the diphtheria kept coming back, or anyway, it caused the bad pneumonia. Didn't she have something else too besides that?
Linda? Yeah? You're too much in the background. Yeah, your voices are carrying into this microphone.
My dad, my granddad, he died from pneumonia too. Lived right next door to a doctor. Couldn't do anything for him.
Still a lot of people die from pneumonia. Well, I started the school in the 1st grade in Monterey Vista.
Wait a minute, I want to know what grandfather died of pneumonia that lived right next to you.
What do you want?
Which grandfather?
Ziebarth.
His grandfather.
He's lived next to a doctor. He was quite a guy that liked to do a lot of operating. He used to go in butcher Reese.
Butcher Reese?
Butcher Reese. That's what his nickname was.
Wait a minute. Talk. Say something.
Well, what school did you start to go to, Vance?
You expect me to know the name of the school?
Were you in Minnesota or California?
Minnesota. So it was about half a dozen different schools.
Pretty red shirt, huh?
What kind of school was it? A red one-room schoolhouse or?
Well, the one in Staples, it was just a 2-room schoolhouse with a bell over the top of it, like you picture.
Tell the camera.
I don't really remember too many of the other schools I went to, but every time my dad moved, we had to going to school.
You guys need to speak up.
You moved a lot, didn't you, when you were in Minnesota? How old were you when you came to California?
7.
7 or 6?
I think it was 7. So that must have been 1923.
Oh, I thought it was 22, the same year that Mom was born.
When I first met him, he said it was 22. He was 6 years old when he came here, and I
Well,
thought,
it might be, but I pictured 23, I don't know why.
And when you came out here, the first place you went, I didn't know before, it was Redondo Beach. You camped out on the beach?
Yeah.
you lived there?
Pitch a tent, that's where we lived.
For how long?
It must not been too long. It seemed like a long time, but we ended up on Alhambra Avenue in Monterey Park, and we rented a house there, and that's where Norm was selling his quinces.
Selling quinces as?
Yeah, somebody had, I think they had a peach tree, a quince tree on that property there, and they went down and picked the peaches, quinces, and put them in a lug and took them down there on Garvey Avenue, put a sign out. You heard me tell this story.
Well, I would kind of remember it, but
He put a sign out there. I think I imagine I think it was $1 a lug, and no, it was $2 a lug. I think it was, and it wasn't selling. So he put it on the other side. He turned the other sign around for $1, and he wasn't. The first guy come along, well, that's a good buy, $1 a lug. So he come out and he said, I'll take a couple of lugs. And he says, well, we want the boxes back. He said, well, just dump on the back of the touring car. He says, just dump on the back of the floor in the back of the seat. And then he said, no, how much? Oh, he says, $4. Then he says, what do you mean $4? It says $1 a lug. He said, no, he says, it's $2 up there. I'll pass signs, that's what the sign said. And the guy, he paid him, but he had doubts about it, because that's where he bought it, because it was only $1 a lug. He had a lot of nerve.
and so he was that way the rest of his life, huh?
But he's living around, before we went to Redondo Beach, because we lived on the west side of L.A. And those kids were living in a tent, and they had a one-room house that they rented. My mother, Dad, and John slept in. We slept out in the tent. And he went out and he found a 30 by 3.5. That's the standard tire for a Model T, 30 by 3.5. And he found a tire that was blowing, the whole sidewall. That was common for those days. Tires, they only lasted a couple thousand miles. You had to buy new tires. But he took the tire home and he glued it together. And then he went down on the street, he flagged a guy down on Model T, and he sold that tire to him. He blew it out. It was a hole. I don't think.
He just glued it together and he sold him his tire, huh?
The guy looked it over, he couldn't see nothing wrong with it.
I'd rather hear about Vance than Norm.
Oh, it was weird.
What did you do on the beach?
I didn't do that.
Was 4 years older?
Yeah.
So he was no more than 11. In other words, he's somewhere between John's and Gary's age.
I think that he had a lot of nerve.
I wouldn't take my shoes and socks off in front of the camera.
Well, why not?
But it's not showing on the camera. The shoes are not. It's showing from about your waist up, I think.
Tell about you. Where you started school,
Yeah,
and who your friends were, what you did.
Did you go to school in Minnesota at all?
Yeah, every time we moved, I had to go to a different school.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember too much about it. I remember just that one school especially. I don't know why, because I remember the classroom. They had 2 classrooms. One classroom is 1 to the 4th grade, and the other classroom was 4 to 8. And the kids that were in the highest, in the 4th grade, one of the kids in the 4th,
Linda.
in the 4th grade, he'd help teach the kids in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. and they did the same thing. They had just one teacher, and they handled all those grades. But they had even a typical old house, like House on the Prairie, like you know that's from Mankato. Did
Yeah.
you know that? And, I wish I was watched it, because maybe it brought some of the scenes back from Mankato.
But my guess is that it was not filmed in Mankato.
That's what I have a feeling too, because
It was filmed up in Hollywood
they were
somewhere.
pretty modern, you know. Later on, maybe it wasn't when we was there. It was just nothing but open land and forest. You have a city, but then anything outside the city limits was just nothing but forest and fields. I can remember going.
You didn't have to walk very far to be out in the wilderness, huh?
Not at all. I remember one time going back there. I don't know whether Herb was in there or just Norm. But we went out with another couple of kids, and we went out into the field. And we stopped and got swiped some guy's corn off his yellow land, and we was way in, quite a ways into the forest. We built a fire and cooked that corn over the fire.
Best tasting corn you ever ate, I bet.
It was good.
Didn't set the forest on fire, huh?
No.
That's pretty good. Come on in, Malia. Oh, I asked you your first memory. My first memory is on, like I was saying, on Kelburn. So I had to be about 3 years old. So that goes way back. So what about you?
I would say probably about 4 years old. The only recollection I have is I went to the doctor's office and had my tonsillectomy taken out.
When you were 4 years old?
And I remember waking up on the anesthetic in this room. And there was another girl, about the same age as I was, that had her tonsillectomy. And I could have nothing else registered but just coming out of the anesthetic.
A pleasant feeling or unpleasant?
I don't remember. It was odd. It was all I thought. I remember it being odd.
Did your mother tempt you with icy drinks and things, or did you have them then?
I can remember when John was born, which I must have been 4 years old. And
Are you 4 years older than John?
yeah.
Oh.
Going to the hospital, I remember seeing, talking to my mother. She was in the hospital bed. And I remember my dad saying, "Would you like to see the baby?" And I said, "Yeah." So we went to the nursery, and we looked at all the babies. You could see them. Even in those days, they had a window where you could let them. He says, "Just take your pick."
Did you pick out John?
I don't remember. I remember him saying,
Probably not.
Yeah, what did you do to keep yourself busy like little children play when you were little? Like your one-room house in your tent? Down at the beach, did you build sand castles or go in the water? Or?
I don't remember.
They went out and stole corn and roasted it in the
I
forest.
remember one time with Dad
It's
and
been
Mother
older then.
and John went to the beach, and I think Herb, Norm, and I stayed home. And my dad gave him so much money for dinner to buy something, and I don't know what he did with the money, but he ended up going to the corner store with the produce and buying a bunch of radishes, and he made us kids radish sandwiches. You hear radish sandwiches?
Pretty powerful, huh?
I thought that was weird. And I remember another time coming back, there was some guy, he went fishing, and he come home and he was, I don't know where this place was, but it was close by where we lived, and he wanted to know if we wanted to fish. And we thought that was great. We'd take the fish home, and there was the old mackerel. And you talk about smell, but I don't think anything smells worse than mackerel. And I don't know if I remember what the hell whether my mother cooked it or not.
Tell me about Grandpa and Grandpa. Grandpa, well, you had all kinds of grandpas and grandmas, right? Mm-hmm. Living there in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Tell the camera back then.
What about him? I can't think of him offhand.
You used to talk about your grandmother's house. Every time you went there, you smelled coffee cake and coffee.
Oh yeah, I could still smell the odor of homemade cinnamon coffee cake and the smell of coffee brewed on the stove. Always was a pot of coffee. And she made her own bread. And another thing I remember, it was a big 2-story brick house. And I guess the family come right off the farm. And I don't know what the grandfather, what he did. Maybe he must have retired when he went into the city because he wasn't a farmer any longer. I don't know what he did. But he couldn't have been too old. I don't think he was even 60 years old. But anyway, my grandmother was a sticker when it come to cleaning.
You gotta speak of which grandmother?
Shuman, as many kids that were still home, like I think Anna, Tilly, Alberta, and I don't know who else was on. It was, that house had to be spick and span. I mean, there wasn't.
Is that why Grandma was that way?
She was just, well, that's right, I guess that's what it.
I mean, there's nobody cleaner. That stove of hers, that ancient stove that was spotless.
And she wouldn't let us kids use the bathroom. And when they built that house, I guess while they're building, they built a outhouse way in the back of the property. And that's where us kids had to use, we wasn't allowed to use that bathroom.
Remember that, Malia.
And on top of that, they had their own well. And, I thought.
The outhouse wasn't over the well, was it?
The house was way in the back of the property. And then right outside the kitchen door was their well and pump. And boy, nothing tastes better than that well water. Man, I tell you, that was.
I was just thinking that you had an outhouse out there that probably went into the ground and into the groundwater.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And you had the well over here. Of course, they were far apart.
Yeah, you can. It isn't that close. They still. They would think about it today, but in those days, they probably never gave a second thought.
Was Grandpa Shuman alive then?
Yeah.
What did he do?
I don't remember. I don't remember him hardly at all. I just thought he was a slight built man. He wasn't real big.
Michelle, would you like the map?
Shuman, Ziebarth, he was heavy, on the heavy set side.
Grandpa Shuman was on the heavy set side?
Shuman, Ziebarth.
Yeah, Grandpa Ziebarth was. But Shuman was skinny.
Yeah.
The pictures I've seen.
Yeah, he was thin. And I think he was an alcoholic too. I think that's what he died from.
I was going to ask you something about the Shumans. Oh, did they speak German in their home? Or English?
When my mother and dad were there, they would speak German. And I don't understand why my mother and dad didn't speak it when they were, so we could have learned it.
But both of them were born and raised here in America, right?
Who?
Your parents?
Yeah. Norm, he's picked up a few of the words. I don't know if he was over at my grandmother's house more than we were or what. But he, when he went into the service in the Air Force, he was on that Berlin airlift. And he picked up German over there, and he could rattle it off pretty good.
Yeah? So,
About like Rick,
yeah. Now Rick speaks good Spanish.
Real good.
I had to move it closer because I think it'll pick up your voices. If we're louder than you are, it'll pick us up. So the Shumans spoke English.
Yeah, I would say so.
And the Ziebarths?
I don't remember either one of them speaking German.
I thought Grandma Ziebarth only spoke German.
She did.
Remember Ziebarth? No, she spoke English.
Honey, when I met her, after we were married,
No, she spoke English.
she never, even when she was older, she never could speak English.
She spoke English. I wasn't around there enough.
I got your cup. I got your bug.
And Grandpa Ziebarth?
Yeah.
He spoke English?
Yeah. What I would like
Did they
to
have
know,
accents, or were you too little to recognize
I
them?
wouldn't know. But I remember thinking about back to when we was kids. They lived in Monterey Park, before he died, and he used to play the Concertina.
Concertina.
And he'd sing with it, German songs. And I thought about it not too long ago, thinking to myself, I wonder whatever happened to it.
Concertina?
Yeah, who got it? Because that would be something to have in the family.
Well, it's probably around somewhere.
I'm gonna have to ask Pearl or Alice, they probably knew what happened.
That's all right. He's all right. I just want to. So do you remember any of those German songs?
No,
If you heard them again, would you recognize them?
no, I could hear him singing with it. I would remember.
Do you remember things like from the 4th to the 8th grade where you played and things that were of interest to you? Did you play baseball with your friends or hide and go seek at night? Or?
You
Where'd you go to school when you came to California? Lived in Monterey Park.
know, Garvey School.
Garvey?
So does she.
Yeah, but I didn't, huh?
You went to, that's,
He went to Monterey Vista for about a week, and then they changed him to where he took a bus to Willard School, I think.
Willard. I remember Willard. I remember the first school.
Monterey Vista. Remember the principal bringing you home, and she was surprised because she remembered me as when I was in
I remember
Monterey
that.
Vista.
I remember taking a nap and never waking up.
What do you mean taking a nap and never waking up?
Oh, they had to wake me up. They thought that was odd or something. When it was time to go play, you know, we were supposed to put our heads down and rest,
Oh,
so I didn't fall asleep. And I'm sure that was at Monterey Vista.
You know, what gets me is at Enas School, the one that I went from the 2nd to the 8th grade, graduated from it. They tore it down, and they said it was the reason for it was an earthquake. But it went through that 1933 earthquake, and they didn't do any damage to it. But they.
Did you know that? But I don't think they would with that little car of yours, because you always ran them until they were discharged, and then you recharged them fully, right?
What do you mean they have memory?
Well, say you only use 5 minutes of the battery,
No.
and then you recharge it, and then you use 3 minutes, and then you recharge it, and then you use 6 minutes, then you recharge it. Then the next time you go to use it, it's only going to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 minutes
well, yeah.
power in it.
What do you have there?
And so what you have to do is deep discharge a number of
I think you
times
better tell
until
your
it
mommy
goes
that
into
your
a
pants
complete
need
discharge.
changing.
Then recharge it, and then you get a full charge on it. We do that all the time with our stuff.
Well, you're thinking really good at charge. Well, to put them on now. Well, they got to get a lot of use out of them.
On what?
Most of
Oh,
the car.
I don't think with type, yeah, I think you got your use out of it. I think you just need to get more.
Did you, can you play that right back on the television now?
No, I don't have a cord for it. It would have been a lot of hassle. They were pushing me to get me out of the house tonight, and I didn't have time to go get it off my other TV. Okay, so tell us about your teachers at Garvey that influenced you.
Oh, did you get any of me on TV?
I have no idea where we left off.
Oh,
just
well,
take a chance.
I loved living out in the country, and I had an aunt and Uncle Bing and Aunt Ella that lived close to us, and they were very friendly and loving with me, and they brought me home a lot and entertained me.
When you say out in the country, though, you need to explain it, because that ain't country no more.
Well, over by San Gabriel and Graves, mile up from Garvey, it was country. There wasn't very many houses there at the time. And it was fun. We had what we called the ditch, about a half a block away from us at the end of our street. And we could travel way up one way and way down the other way down there.
The ditch along Protrero Grande?
Yes, and it would even go clear up to a river in a stream.
What are your narrows?
Well, yeah, around there someplace, and we had a lot of fun doing that. And there was 2 caves in there. We used to play and pretend we were cowboys or build houses and fix them up in there, fix it up like a house. And when I went to school, the teachers were so good about teaching you patriotism, good manners. It just seemed like a wonderful way, in addition to your home life. They really taught us the way to live. And I'll never forget some of those teachers, how I was so proud to have them as teachers, the way they would teach.
But they're not allowed to teach values anymore. See, that's wrong.
I know, and I think that's the hardest thing there is to accept. Why don't we fight those things?
It's wrong.
It isn't wrong.
We should be able to teach values, American
And
values.
then the person can reject or accept them, whatever they want. But they have to know what's the difference of things so they can know what to accept and reject. I went to Garvey School and enjoyed that very much. And my sister-in-law, Maureen, who's my sister-in-law now, went there at the same time.
You knew they went to school together, don't you?
That, who went together?
From Garvey, yeah.
Maureen and her.
Garvey and through high school.
Yes, I remember that now.
And one time I was living with a family way up in Alhambra by Los Angeles. It must have been 15 or 20 miles from my house. And I was what they call the mother's helper. And she had bought me some shoes or something, so she didn't
Wait a
take...
second. If I hear them louder than you, I know the microphone is doing the same thing. John, to play a game, just go right out there and on you.
The planning saying something different. I can't think of anything to say now.
I gotta quit. I gotta quit. I sit here too long.
Do whatever Mom says. Go out there.
It's interesting to hear about stuff.
Hmm?
It's interesting to hear what you have to say.
Red shirt. Well, I didn't realize it was 9 o'clock. We're going to have to leave.
Yes, you are. Well, I'll hurry and tell you this.
Have a seat, Linda. Cross over here and sit.
My father's family came from England, but he was born over this country with one other brother. And my mother was from Spanish Fork, Utah, a good Mormon family. And how they ever got together, I don't know, but they were both, although my mother was raised from a poor family, they had good things in life. They always had the best of what they could. Good manners, good tablecloths,
Good food.
good food. And they were both insistent on good manners and acting right, which we didn't always do, but it was nice to have been taught that. I had an older sister, Mary, 5 years older. The Bob came. Bob and I were good friends all the time. He was living with us. He stayed in Idaho a lot of times, in Crystal, Idaho, with my Aunt Marjorie and Uncle Martin on a farm.
Bob?
Mm-hmm.
Bob who?
Your brother.
My brother, Robert Newton Mant. No, yeah, Robert Newton Mant. And then my sister Virginia was born, and I remember them bringing her home, a little round baby in a little bassinet, like a laundry basket they would fix up in those days for a bassinet. And then I remembered when I was about 12, my mother would go around saying, oh, she's holding her stomach, or she'd hold her jaw, and she'd say she hurt, and here she was pregnant. And I heard her tell Mary one time that she was going to have a baby, and I thought, oh, I'm going to hate that baby. She's hurting my mother. And when that baby Carol was born, she was my favorite. I mean, the family would go off and leave me with the baby because they could trust me. Mary was afraid of the baby. She wouldn't touch her, and she wouldn't change her pants. And
She hasn't changed a bit.
No, she wasn't.
And I loved that baby, and I was glad to stay home with her. But after Vance and I was married, she was only 2 years old, and she would come over to our house in Bell, and we'd put her to bed on the couch in the living room. And in the middle of the night, we'd feel something heavy. We couldn't move the covers around. There would be Carol in between us in the covers. One time I was making a cake, and we had a bathtub on legs, and I knew, you know, I had been working with an egg beater. And pretty soon I couldn't find the egg beater. And I looked all over for it, and Carol said she didn't touch it. Weeks later, I found it under the bathtub. And
I bet Carol don't remember not having us around as kids.
no.
She was pretty young.
And I met Vance when I was 14. And he was talking about getting married one night, and I said, oh, are you asking me to marry you? And he said, no. And I thought, oh, I was just kidding, but I didn't say anything. So the next night he asked me to marry him. I was just kidding. I said, yes. So we thought, I don't know why we did, but we decided to get married when I was 15, and in May 1937, we went to Santa Ana so that it wouldn't be in the local newspapers. And we got married. We thought if we kept it a secret until I was 16, then nobody could have it annulled.
Oh, yes, it could.
Well, we thought they couldn't. And my father was so shocked, and Mary had told my mother that I was married, and my mother said, oh, Helen wouldn't do that to me. So I felt bad about that part of it. And his mother was real nice. She had a family dinner with a wedding cake for us. We kept that wedding for a long, long time. I think it's still in one of our houses that we left behind. And Erich was born about 4 years after we were married. And we had to borrow $90 to pay for the hospital and doctor. And the day we paid that off, I thought, oh, the baby's ours now.
$90? And I became yours?
Maybe $100.
No, I don't think it was 100. I think it was $40 for the hospital, $40 for the doctor.
80 bucks.
But I wasn't aware that we had to have money to live on.
That was for 10 days in the hospital.
Yeah.
You know what it cost for my 7 days just for my eye? I was just sitting there taking this drop. There's no big deal. It was $17,000.
Things have gone up.
A little bit. I would say the hospital out of reach. I mean, one of these days they're not going to be able to. Nobody will be able to go to the hospital. They won't be able to afford it. Even with insurance, I think the insurance is going to quit too.
Well, I think the insurance has some control on it. Because what they're willing to pay, the doctors and hospitals find a way to work it out. And insurance is one of the reasons. What?
The family was trying to continue.
Well, we lived in San Gabriel. It was there. I only remembered one house a block away, which was the Dickens house, and they lived around a lot of beautiful eucalyptus trees. They had a lovely house with secret. To me, they were secret compartments, and they had a windmill. And
What street did they live
on San Gabriel, and they had window seats where you could sit in the window seat and look out the window. And what was I going to say about this?
I remember the rattlesnake place right down the street.
Oh yes, that was after I was growing up. But every night in the summer we'd play Run Sheep Run and Kick the Can and all those games.
Do you remember Alicia?
All the...
Alicia? The name is familiar. Where did she live?
She lived down the street from us. She's one that had you drink some paint thinner. That
Oh, you mean the house with the 3 or 4 girls down at the end of Kelburn?
Yes.
No, that was the other end.
Yes.
She only had that one girl.
She did not.
Oh, he's thinking about the one down the other end.
I'm thinking of the one toward Potrero Grande. I don't know
That
their
was
name.
Alicia, and she had...
You mean the one right next to Potrero Grande or Graves?
No, it wasn't toward Graves. It was.
Well, I don't think they had 3 girls. So,
Well,
all I remember is Alicia and maybe a baby.
They did have 3 girls in their house.
Oh, were they younger than Alicia?
Yeah, he drank...
paint thinner.
It was during the war, and he drank paint thinner. And we called the doctor. He says, make him drink some raw egg or milk, and he'll throw up. Now, you're not supposed to make them throw up when they've had anything like that. I said he won't drink it. He says, well, make him, and he hung up on me. And he laid that bed, that little crib, and
Burp. Burp that stuff
breathed fumes for about 4 days. It's a wonder he wasn't dead, yeah. And I didn't know what else to do. Oh, it's terrible when you're a young mother.
Another time when he was just
It sure burned going down, too.
Oh.
Remember?
Well,
I remember it very well.
When we first moved into
We
the
were
house.
playing house.
Yeah.
And they had these mason jars, and one of them had turpentine paint or whatever it was in it. We put it on the table, and then
know?
You said the girl made me do it. I don't remember her making me do it. I just remember we were doing things, and something came up that I said, well, I'll drink it. And I'm thinking, I shouldn't drink this. But I drank it anyway.
Maybe you had a
Dumb.
taste for it because when you was over there in Maywood, you toddled back there. We had the painters come in and they was painting the kitchen, and what paint was left over was in the back porch. And you was toddled back over there and was drinking that paint. The paint was running out of your mouth when she found you.
Yeah, we were sleeping. You were still in
Does
your
that mean I have
pajamas.
brain damage from the lead and the paint?
Oh,
I guess so.
gosh.
I wonder what was wrong.
You imagine
Well,
drinking paint?
But we lived in the sort of the country, and there was hills surrounding us, and one of the highest hills had a searchlight, you know, that went around so airplanes wouldn't run into it. And I would watch at night, and when it would go through the clouds, it would be sort of a magical thing. And I was always religious, and I'd look out my window and watch that searchlight going through the clouds and wondering about God and Jesus up there. And
Looking, you think the searchlight was searching for him, or?
no, I just thought the heavens were beautiful with the light going through the clouds, and then sometimes there'd be stars shining through. And I remember that a lot.
How about the ghosts that we see?
Down on Portero Grande?
Yeah, tell us about that.
One night after a show, we went what they used to call necking, and we drove out in this orange grove, way out in this orange grove with this one single dirt road. And was there fog up there?
It was foggy, yeah.
Light fog. It would come in waves. And here our lights picked up this man. He was all in white, and he was about that far from the ground.
Looked like a ghost.
And he just walked right towards us. And boy, you never seen him find a place to back up and turn around so fast.
Is that what you did? You backed up and turned?
And we went home, and I'll never forget that.
But it was that clear that there was no way it could have been a wisp of fog.
Didn't look like
It was a definite man. It was definitely a
Yeah, but
man.
they wasn't touching
with
the ground.
hands and hair and a face and body. And
Sharp and crisp, the image. Not like a fog.
no, it wasn't fog all masked up. It wasn't that. It was a person.
What did he look like? Look mean or nice?
Well, I'll tell you, just a pleasant person. It was, but it was so unreal. I mean, it's so unusual. So we were scared and we left as fast as that car would go.
I guess that's what you get for necking.
Yeah, well, we didn't get to neck that night, did we? Oh. Yeah, I believe in ghosts. We used to have a great big 3-story house and basement. It was on Graves Avenue. It was all surrounded by tall trees. And it was run down, a really run down house. At one time it was a beautiful...
What story is it that you were telling? That isn't true. That you told your campcrafter girl.
The one about the ghost. Well, we used to tell ghost stories around the campfire when we get in our sleeping bags. And so that was mine.
But you say it wasn't true.
Well, it wasn't, but I thought it sounded good. Don't you ever make up stories to tell people?
Was the one where you saw the guy walking, was that true?
And now it has been immortalized on tape.
Oh, well, no, this other in the Orange Grove, that was true.
What do you have on?
He's dressed in white, you said.
Well, he was a white figure, but I can't.
It was ghostly, that's all.
I can't remember
Really?
It was pants and
After we
shirt
got out
or
of
a
there.
robe or what, but it was a human personage,
And he didn't go away as you were driving toward him, or what?
It seemed like to me like he was going across the front of the car. Well, I can remember.
Did he look at you?
He looked to me like he was coming right toward us, straight towards the car. We never.
But you both saw it. There's no question.
Yeah,
You both saw the same thing at the same time.
definitely.
Definitely.
And he was definitely off the ground. I mean,
Yeah, his
That's
feet
what it
never
looked
touched
like,
the
yeah.
ground.
so it wasn't the farmer that wanted to get rid of all the people that wanted to neck in the orange grove that walked in black boots with white clothes on. So it would look like an
No.
apparition off the ground.
It was a different appearance.
You know, you don't see fogs like they used to, you know that?
That's because there's more people, more warmth. The warmth.
That's because you live up here.
No, you don't get the fogs down at the beach like you used to.
I think the beach
More
used
than once I've left the beach towards night, and it was so thick that you had to look and watch the edge of the road. In the old days, they didn't go for a line around the edge. You had to watch the edge of the road, and you couldn't see right by it.
I think one of the reasons for that is that there are better roads, and there are more lights, and there's more heat
There's more
generated
homes
by all the homes and the
and
cars.
I can
cars.
remember leaving San Bernardino one time. Norm lived there, and I don't even remember what car I had. When we got out on Foothill Boulevard, that's before they had freeways or anything else, and we headed home, and it was so thick, you had to go along about 5 miles an hour, and then you could just barely make your way. And I got behind a car that was doing about 60. And as long as I could see his taillight, I could stay. But if he ever had to make a fast stop, or if he stopped or hit something, I'd have run right into him.
Oh, you were that close.
It was either that, or I'd been all night getting home because it was so thick.
And he was just taking a chance.
Yeah, well, he must have been watching falling maybe somebody too.
I think he was following a truck.
But whoever was in the front there, I don't know how they
One
could
brave
drive that
soul.
fast. You ain't kidding.
Well, it's getting late. Tell us about your motorcycles. Just start with the first motorcycle and go right through to the last motorcycle, and then we'll quit.
And tell about your treehouse you lived in.
The first motorcycle was a Harley. And
He's drooling already.
What year?
You got to tell him everything about it. He's a Harley fanatic.
1925. See a picture going back that far? And it was just a piece of junk, all it was. I can remember one time I took it out, and I come home, and the transmission must have run out of grease or something, because it burned all the bearings and it got hot. And when I got home, the whole case, it was aluminum casing, it just fell apart, all the gears fell out of it. And that's the last time I got to ride that thing. And I give it to some high school kid. Didn't have no pink slip on it or anything. And I told him what I had, and he said he wanted it. I said, okay, it's yours. I don't know what I'd do with it, because I didn't have no money to fix it up. And he fixed the thing up, and he was running it there, driving back to school. The next one I bought right after I started working for Mueller. It was.
What year was that?
The motor was in 1930.
No, what year did you start working for Mueller?
In 1935. And it was a 4-cylinder. And it was a gold machine.
What kind was it?
Indian.
4-cylinder inline Indian?
Inline Indian. And that thing would just purr. You could cut that thing back, and it's just as smooth as it could be. You could let it
Because
go.
it was 4-cylinder.
Yeah, compared to the old twin. Oh, it was really smooth.
What was the Harley? Was it a dual cylinders?
Yeah, it was just a twin.
V shape or inline?
It was V-shape. But that Indian, I remember coming home from work one time, and you take awful chances, but I come along down Atlantic Boulevard, wherever the Golden Gate Theater is, and I hit the signal. It just turned into green when I thought, well, I'll just go around the traffic. And there was two cars already parked there, waiting their turn, and the guy going the opposite direction, he made a left-hand turn in front of them, and I ended up on his hood. I hit the running board. He used to have a running board that day, and I went right up on his hood.
Was it a motorcycle or was it
The
you?
motorcycle, mine.
You and the motorcycle
Yeah,
were
the
both
motorcycle.
up on the hood
I
of
was
this.
just giving it the gas with the guy. I didn't see him. All of a sudden, he was in front of me. I didn't have a chance to put my brakes on or anything else.
What kind of car was it?
I don't even remember. I don't remember even taking the guy's
But it
name.
had a running board and the
Yeah.
long fender
Yeah.
that got you up there. And did you land there? I mean, is that where you rested?
I landed up against the hood. And that scared me. And another time I was
You didn't
coming-
quit then, huh?
No. I come down off of our hill there in Monterey Park. In those days, they didn't have plastic helmets. They had old leather helmets like the open
The
truck
pilots.
pilots wore, you know. And it was, they cut off all your sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I coming down off the hill, I was going faster than I really thought I was. But a little faster than when I was going, it seemed like it didn't seem fast. I was really moving.
Did you have a speedometer?
Yeah.
Is this the Indian still?
And I couldn't tell in nighttime. I don't think it had dazzle lights on.
Yeah. Was this the Indian?
Yeah. So I hit the end of the street, dead end. I either got to go right or left. But I was going too fast to make my turn, and I put the brakes on, and I hit the gravel at the end of the road, against the curb, and I walked that thing for maybe 10, 15 feet before it fell underneath me, and it dragged my leg. Oh, I mean, that
You're
was
supposed to
painful.
grab your leg and sit up on top of it.
Yeah, but I had time to do anything.
Do they still make
And then
them?
how did it stop?
It finally got laying on its side.
Do they still make an Indian motorcycle?
No.
Well, they were nice, weren't they?
What happened to your leg?
I don't remember.
But you got up and walked away from it.
Took it, rode it away.
He turned over in a Roadster one time.
You heard
Go
about
talk.
that, didn't you? I was riding with old Gordon next door. He had a little Chevy. 25
Next
Chevy.
door on
Yeah.
New
Russell.
Russell, on Russell, yeah.
He had a Roadster, 25 Chevy Roadster. And he had in those days it would be classy when they laid the windshield down on top of the hood. It was just open,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. And he lowered the old steering wheel. It used to be way up here above the cowl. He lowered the seat of the car, right practically down on the floor where it used to be sitting up on a bench. You practically almost sitting in an old car about as high as this was.
Yeah.
Well, he puts it right on the floor. And he's going down along Graves,
What kind of car was this?
25 Chevy.
Roadster.
Yeah. And when he was doing about 45, 50 miles an hour.
Was that maximum speed for that car?
No, they would do more than that. And I seen a guy coming up the hill. He got this intersection. And I said, well, watch it, Gordy. And he turned and looked at me first instead of looking ahead to see what he was while I was talking about it. What do you mean? And boy, that me. Here's a big old Buick. I don't know what year it was. Big old Buick sedan. We hit that. The last thing I remember is that Buick was going through the air. They hit it that hard. You know, Gordon didn't even have his foot on the brake. He hit that thing doing 50 miles an hour like hitting a brick wall.
Broadside?
Broadside. And he picked that big Buick up and set it up clear up on the sidewalk on the opposite side of the street. And we first went that way and then turned completely around to go the other direction. And then we went over on the side and I was ready to crawl out. And Dory said, here it comes, you better duck. And how we ever fit into that little spot, both of us, is beyond us.
Here, what time?
Gary,
Oh, the car rolled again?
It rolled
Gary,
clear on his top.
don't eat popsicles in the bedroom.
Okay.
Go out in the kitchen, honey, where it could be wiped out.
But I got a...
Gordy said, here it comes, duck.
No,
So you-
Vance
Oh,
said kid.
no, I don't know which one of us said it, because we was ready to get out, and it just, there wasn't...
And you were
time.
still moving.
Well, he was trying to make up his mind to go over. I thought it was just going to lay on its side, and then it just finally went through on its top. And I think I could hear these men running towards the car, and they thought sure we got killed in it, because, I mean, hitting the car that hard, it's no wonder we weren't, because...
Didn't have seatbelts.
Oh, they didn't know what seatbelt was.
And they didn't even go to the doctor. Here they had bloody squashed heads.
Just cut wide open here.
Gordy's or
Or
yours?
mine. I don't think Gordon got his bad as mine.
And
The
they never
steering wheel
even
broke.
had a checkup.
It still had its crossbar on it. That's why he drove the thing home.
Oh, he drove it home?
What does
You know,
that
they're
mean?
right. They just don't make them like they used to. So you mean you rolled the thing over after?
Now maybe I'm wrong, but I could picture him taking the old parts of the steering wheel was just hanging, that wood was hanging on there, and it still had the crossbar. And I could picture him throwing the windshield where it was laying over the hood and part of it in the seat. And I swear up and down he rode it home, but now I couldn't, when you make the say how it could hit that hard and still drive that thing home.
Yeah, I think it'd ruin the radiator.
There's something, I mean, as hard as we hit.
But it did, from its side, it rolled over onto its top and crushed the top.
But there was no top, it was just open.
Well, that's why he said duck.
Oh, it's a Roadster.
You know, just open, he had the windshield laying over in the front.
What happened to the other car?
Well, they had pretty good sight digging the side of it up there.
Must have, if it moved
But
it
in
on
those
the wall.
days, nobody had insurance. They just, I guess if you felt like it was your fault, you had to pay him or something. I don't know anybody.
The police never came.
So you don't know if Gordy paid for the Buick or not, huh?
I remember one time Gordon come up there with a friend of his, and his friends, folks they were elderly, and the kids were young, weren't they, the whole family. And he did lay the seat down on the floor, lower the steering wheel, put the windshield up in front, and then every morning when he'd drive the car at night, you know, with date or something like that, and every morning the old man would have to go to work, he had to put all that stuff back together again. And he'd come up there at the end of Monterey, Russell Hill, and they used to have a pretty steep place where they used to be an old water tank. And they tore the tank down, but you could still had a flat spot. He'd go clear back the end of the property over the fence, and Gordon would get on the bumper of the back end of the car, and he'd hit that thing wide open. It's all plowed field up around that hill, and he'd take off.
Wait. Let me see if that.
And I mean, they'd take off airborne, and him hanging onto the
Rear bumper.
bumper in the back, and driving over and driving in front of it. And he wanted me to know if I wanted to ride. I said, no way. So I go ride on that thing. Like, that's danger. And it wasn't too long after that, he was at a carnival, and Elmer was the type of person that he was a show-off. And he was talented. I gotta admit he was talented. But he did these kind of things. And he was at a carnival. He got into one of these places where they had these chair seats where they go around. Had to stand up, and he wasn't happy to just sit down on the seat. And after he got the full blown blasted out of it, he threw him on out. And he hit
Against the truck.
He hit his head against the truck that was doing running the motor for it. And they didn't kill him right away, but it crushed the whole side of his face and everything was a mess. And he didn't live very long after that. So he was daring.
What's the name
He was
of
asking for trouble, in my opinion.
clothes?
He tempted nature. I mean, there's just no way you could do things that he was doing and get away with it.
You told us about the Indian and about laying it down on its side at the end of the road. What else happened with the Indian? And did you have any other motorcycles?
That's all it was. I just had the two. To me, it was interesting. I remember one time I come home from work, and I drove to work, and it was, I put it in the sand house. And when I went out there to start the thing, it gave me a shock. It gave me a shock right on the seat, right on the seat. And every time I'd kick it over, get on the seat, I'd get a shock. And I found out, here are these characters there from Foundry.
That rewired the magneto to the seat?
Magneto right up, the hole in the seat, they ran that wire right up through there. Talk about jump off that seat.
You did it more than once?
And they were sitting back there laughing at me.
They were having a ball.
I couldn't imagine what I was doing, so I finally looked down and I thought, what the heck is this wire doing up here?
This was at the Mueller, right? At the sand house where they kept the sand for the molds?
Yeah, well, no, sand for the quarters.
For the cores.
Do you get on there ready?
Okay, I'm going to call quits.
Okay, good night, camera.
Just say good night, Vance. Good night, Helen.
Good night.